Rachel Dolezal publicly identifying as black on the Today Show got a lot of people drawing a lot of false comparisons between the idea of being transracial and being transgender. Who better than a cisgender white lady to explain why that's a load of misinformation? I would just like to state for the record that I feel like I am wallowing in privilege right now. For those of you who have been off the internet and avoiding all media entirely for the past few weeks, Rachel Dolezal is the formerly thought of as African-American spokesperson for the Spokane, Washington chapter of the NAACP, who was recently outed as white by her white parents. Moving past Dolezal's questionable, to say the least, life decisions, I wanted to focus in on this problematic idea that she's quote-unquote transracial in the same way that, say, Caitlyn Jenner is transgender. Because equating the two simultaneously devalues both the black and the transgender experience, haphazardly tossing both of them into the giant bucket labeled othering. The go-to transracial equals transgender argument is that, hey, both race and gender are social constructs, so we're basically talking about the same thing, right? Wrong. In the same way that plums and grapefruit are both fruit, as implied by the fruit in the word grapefruit, they're highly different things, and not only because plums just kind of look like adorable butts. Whereas a transgender person transitioning is the process of aligning their internal and likely inborn gender identity with their outward physical appearance and embodiment. A so-called transracial person like Rachel Dolezal actively passing involves splitting oneself in two. For instance, Time magazine writer Meredith Melnick defined passing as, quote, identifying with and representing oneself as one race while denying ancestry of another. Another definition published in the Ohio State Law Journal takes an even harsher tack. Passing is a deception that enables a person to adopt certain roles or identities from which he would be barred by prevailing social standards in the absence of his misleading conduct. That word deception is a key reason why this transracial equals transgender argument often equals transphobic. Not to mention how gender identity and racial identity function quite differently in society as well. Society giveth and taketh away privileges based on our gender, but race also plays an important role in forming this overall American hierarchy. For that reason, what I lack privilege-wise being female, I make up for to some degree being white. Well, Rachel Dolezal told Matt Lauer in that Today Show interview that she began drawing herself with, quote, the brown crayon when she was a kid. She nonetheless was never growing up living life as a black girl and a black woman, the things that experientially define blackness. Whereas a transgender person from childhood is growing up with that maleness or femaleness because of the way that gender identity operates inside of us, regardless of what our bodies look like and how people treat us based on that. While Dolezal may choose to call herself transracial and publicly identify as black, she will never be black in the same way that Caitlyn Jenner or Laverne Cox are women. As an addendum, things like skin lightening and eye reshaping aren't examples of people molding their outside appearance to match some inward racial identity, but rather chase aesthetic ideals in search for cultural status. For instance, in the case of Michael Jackson, regardless of how much skin bleaching and facial reconstruction he underwent, he would never be deemed white. All of which has got me thinking that transracial in this context is nothing more than a dangerous distraction away from the real lived experiences of both transgender people and people of color.